All right, shalom, beloved, and hopefully everyone is doing wonderful today. I want to do part 2 of There's Not a Jew nor a Greek to actually bring forth more information to help edify those that may be still a little confused. Make no mistake, family, that this information is out there. It's just that, powers that be would rather continue to push the deception, push the lie, than to actually give the correct information. So hopefully with this additional information, it will make even more sense. So let me start off by giving all glory and honor to the Creator of the universe, to Heavenly Father Yahweh, and to His Son Yeshua HaMashiach. I'd like to also send out a greeting to the brothers and sisters that's trying to teach and reach the children of the diaspora, and also to the Gentiles that are gathered with us in sincerity. To you guys I say shalom. So anyway, family, we know that a lot of times in religion, people take scriptures or take they call the New Testament or the Gospel, and they like to take things out of context. And again, it's not like I know everything, but once we start collecting all the missing pieces, we can really see what is actually being said. So in this discussion, we're going to see not only what's being said, but who Paul was actually talking to, right? So let's go to that scripture. Let's go to that verse. Let's go to that verse. And that's Galatians chapter 3. I'm going to start off at verse 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There's neither bond nor free. There's neither male nor female. For ye are all one in Christ Jesus, or Yeshua HaMashiach, right? And this is the verse that they like to use to say, well, it doesn't matter your ethnicity or your race or religion or your nationality, culture, your sex, rich, poor, whatever. We are all one for all nations. But as we go through this, we're going to see that that's not the context that Paul was speaking in, right? That's the furthest from the truth. Now, that doesn't say that, the people or the things that I said could not apply to everybody in another context. But Paul was speaking to a group, a certain group, in reference to fulfill the prophetic nature of the Bible. And again, we're going to run this down. We're going to make this make sense. So, tell you what. Again, I have behind me the map of Africa. And remember, we said in that previous video, we said that Cyrene was a colony of Greece, right? So in the orange right here, I have where I can draw, and you can see as much the regions that Greece controlled or ruled, and that there were more, but again, this is just for this lesson or this message right here. And right here I have the word Hellenist. So let's go get that. Let's go to, they call the Zanavans Pictorial Bible Dictionary, which is, again, for those that may not have one, it's good to add to your study material. And let's go to get the word, we're going to get the word Hellenist. Hellenist, non-Greeks. So these Hellenists were non-Greeks who spoke Greek. A term used specifically for Jews who made Greek their tongue. just already we start to see things should make even more sense already. And with it often adopted Greek ideals and practices. Now, right about now, this should already say and show you that when people use Paul's writings or his letter, especially this verse out of context, it clearly already should make more sense. But what we're going to do is, again, let's go get the prophetic nature. We're going to go to the Old Testament, what they call the Old Testament, and then we're going to put that together. And then later on, we're going to get more verses or more scriptures to even connect what they call the Old Testament and New Testament together to make it all makes even more sense. So let's go to the book of Daniel. Let's go to Daniel chapter, I want to say chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. And we're going to, we're going to skip around, but, when you have time, you can read the whole chapter for yourself to get even more context. But we're just going to we're going to read a few verses here and there, and then we're going to, we're just going to get the meat of it, the meat and potatoes of it, and then we're going to go get other scriptures to edify this, to put this doctrine to rest, that religion used out of context. So anyway, Salah. Daniel chapter 1, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. Now remember, you said that Elam was in what they call the so-called Middle East. We said that week before last, right? And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river in Ual, right? Then I lifted up my eyes, and I saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram push forward, westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considered, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a noble horn between his eyes. So, just for time, we're going to jump down to verse 8. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, and he was strong. The great horn was broken, and from it came up 4 noble ones towards the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one then came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great, towards the south, and towards the east, and towards the pleasant land. And it waxed great even unto the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts of the stars, and the ground, and stomped upon them. And I'm going to jump down to verse 19. And he said, Behold, I will make thee known what shall be at the last of this indignation, For at the time appointed, the end shall be. The ram which which thou sawest having two horns, are the kings of Mede and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horns that is between his eyes is the first king, which is Alexander the Great. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up from it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. So we're going to get, now that's Daniel speaking prophetically. So now we know that the ram was the kingdom of the Mede and Persian Empire. And we know that the rough goat or the he goat was the kingdom of Greece. So now, again, we can see how all this, from what the forefather Paul or Shaul was saying, we can see how this even makes even more sense, right? Again, everything has a context, and a lot of times people get mad and when you bring this information out. But again, we're just trying to clear up bad doctrines or bad information that actually was done on purpose. But anyway, so we're going to go to this book right here. This is the New English Bible with the Apocrypha. Some of you guys probably heard of the Apocrypha. Some of you guys may have not. And for those that have not, again, you can buy just the Apocrypha, or you can find you a book, a Bible with the Apocrypha in it. This is some of the rest of the books that were taken out, right? Again, to hide this information. So we're going to go to the book of First Maccabees. And we're going to get start off at chapter 1, verse 1. And again, we're going to read a few verses to actually bring this history into focus, right? We're going to bring this history into make it all line up, make it make sense. So First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. Alexander of Macedonia, right, which we know is the king of Greece, right, Grecian. So the son of Philip marched from the land of Kittim. I'll tell you what, let's do this right fast. Kittim. So land of Kittim. So remember, Kittim is Rome, right? So whenever you hear somebody mention Kittim would be ancient Rome or Rome, right? From the land of Kittim, defeated Darius, king of Persia and Media. Again, we see this is talking about Daniel's vision, right? And seized his throne, being already king of Greece. In the course of many campaigns, he captured fortress towns, slaughtered kings, traversed the earth to its remote bounds, and plundered innumerable nations. When at last the world lay quiet under his rule, his pride knew no limits. He built up an extremely powerful army and ruled over countries, nations, and dominions. All paid him tribute. The time came when he fell ill, and knowing that he was dying, he summoned his generals, nobles, who had been brought up with him from childhood, and divided his empire among them while he was still alive. Alexander had reigned 12 years when he died. His generals took over the government, each in his own province. On his death, they were all crowned kings, and their descendants succeeded them for many years. They brought untold miseries upon the world. So again, this is what Daniel's talking about. The 4 generals were those 4 that stood up, and they became kingdoms, right? Became kings. So again, we can see, the prophetic nature of it, and then when Paul was speaking about what happened in the past. Daniel was speaking about what was going to happen in his time during the future. Well, in the future, right? So now the Apocrypha, the book of Maccabees is actually that time, right? The time in between. So this is the glue that binds all this together, that history that was taken out to hide all this, to hide this information, right? So now, again, it should be very clear that when Paul was saying this, he wasn't talking to the whole world. He was talking to a specific group of people that were Hellenized. We got that again in the Bible dictionary. The Jews that were Hellenized, they were Greek-speaking Jews. So this is why I tell you what. Let's go here. We're going to come back. We're going to come back to First Maccabees. Chapter 1, we're going to come back there. Let's go to the book of Acts. Let's go to the book of Acts, right? Acts chapter 21. And let's get chapter 21, let's get verse 37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Can thou speak Greek? Or not thou that Egyptian which before these days made an uproar and laid out unto the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? So remember, this is when Paul was brought up on charges saying that he was bringing Gentiles into the temple, and so the chief captain asked Paul, could he speak Greek? And we know that Paul was not a Greek; he was an Israelite, right? He was an Israelite. So now this even makes this again, this connects that these are the dots being connected, right? So again, for those that are really serious about getting the right information, again, sometimes people just regurgitate what they've been told. And again, it's through our own ignorance, you know what I'm saying? Because we've all been guilty of that in one form or another. But if we really want to know the truth, we have to be willing to accept that certain things that we were told it's not accurate, it's not right, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's move on. Let's go back to First Maccabees, right? And let's start off at chapter 1. Let's go to verse 11. At the time there appeared in Israel a group of renegade Jews who incited the people. Let us enter into a covenant with the Gentiles. Remember, the Most High didn't want us to enter into any covenant with the Gentiles. But here there's some rebellious or rebel renegade Israelites or Jews go and do what the Most High told us not to do. Again, showing how this would all make sense is going to line up. This is why the Most High allowed us to go into captivity. So anyway, let's read further, right? Okay. Let us go into covenant with the Gentiles around about, they said, because disaster upon disaster have overtaken us since we segregated ourselves from them. The people thought this a good argument, and some of them, in their enthusiasm, went to the king and received authority to introduce non-Jewish laws and customs, and built a sports stadium in the Gentile style in Jerusalem. They removed their marks of circumcision and repudiated the Holy Covenant. They intermarried with Gentiles and abandoned themselves to evil ways. So again, showing you how they was Hellenized. They remember the Hellenists took on Greek culture, Greek language, Greek ideas. Again, showing you so again, this is that history that was taken out. Again, purposely, right? So let's jump over to verse 41. The king then issued a decree throughout his empire. His subjects were all to become one people and abandon their own laws and religion. The nations everywhere complied with the royal command, and many in Israel accepted the foreign worship, sacrificing to idols and profaning the Sabbath. Again, it really reminds me of what's going on today. Our people, they say they believe in the Bible, but they really and truly don't. They adopt the Gentiles' culture, whether it's eating eating things that the Most High said is abominable. Again, marrying strange wives or husbands or what have you. For the women. Celebrating their pagan holidays, again, on and on and on. We see this happening now. So again, there's nothing new under the sun. So we can see how, again, prophetically these things were being repeated. And what group of people is always at the center of all this? It's usually my people. And again, people get mad when you bring this information out. Again, we don't care about that, but again, it's just show you how this information is out there. It's do my people especially want to hear the truth? And in many cases, they really don't want to hear the truth. You know what I'm saying? It's they carry their Bible, it's just a facade. But anyway, let's move forward. Moreover, the king sent agents, let that sink in, with written orders to Jerusalem and the towns of Judea. Ways and customs foreign to the country were to be introduced. Burnt offerings, sacrifice, and libations in the temple were forbidden. Sabbaths and feast days were to be profaned, and the temple and its ministers to be defiled. Altars, idols, and sacred precincts were to be established. Swine and other unclean beasts to be offered in sacrifice. Again, it just reminds me, because again, this is the same thing. Our people would celebrate these pagan holidays and they would eat abominable meals. I mean, and unclean animals, and they were trying to ask the Most High to bless them. And it's just so, again, showing you this history, man. And again, like I said, it repeats itself because they're doing the same thing. My people's doing the same thing today. Anyway, let's move forward, right? They must leave their sons uncircumcised. They must make themselves in every way abominable, unclean, and profane, and so forget the law and change all their statutes. The penalty for disobedience was death. Again, family. So what jumps out at me, family, especially with reading this, is you hear many people in Christianity say, "Oh yeah, it's gonna come a day when we won't be able to worship, and follow the Bible and worship on the Sabbath." First and foremost, the day that you think is the Sabbath, is not the Sabbath. So you're already, that's why you're no threat. And for this, we see right now, our people again are eating, unclean animals. And again, So how can you say that the day is going to come when, you won't be able to follow the Bible when you're not following the Bible at all right now? You know what I'm saying? It's talking about our people who are trying to come back to the word of the Most High. That's who it's, again, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but the truth is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's talking about, again, it's talking to the people that were Hellenized, because the same thing right now, they were stripped of their language, they were stripped of their identity, stripped of their culture. That's why many Israelite guys, brothers and sisters, ask my people, especially ask them, what is your nationality? What is your language? You were stripped of all that. So here it is, we see this right now prophetically again. This was in the past, but we see it right now even in the present. So again, the same thing, that's why I said in that last video, it's saying the same thing, because these people regard not, the young and the old, or the rich and the poor. Again, Chris Rock said it, is famous for saying, in one of his stand-ups, he's rich and not a white guy out there will switch places with him. So again, so we know that history. We know that history, especially during Jim Crow era of slavery, when so-called Negro, when they had a few, so-called Negroes or black people that were free, they didn't respect these people as being free. They were still called boy or girl, or have their wealth or resources stripped from them and stuff like that. Again, so we know the history of this country. So why is it that people like to play those mind games when we can see that historically it's the same thing that's happening now? But anyway, let's jump down to verse. Let's jump down to verse 54. On the 15th day of the month of Kesler, in the year 145, the abomination of desolation set up on the altar. Pagan altars were built throughout the town of Judea. Incense were burned at the door of the house and on the street, houses and on the street. All the scrolls of the law which were found were torn up and burned. Anyone discovered in possession of the book of the covenant, right? Of the book of the covenant, or conforming to the laws, was to be put to death by king's sentence. Thus, months after month, these wicked men used their power against the Israelites whom they found in their towns. So again, that shows you the history, family. So again, when people in religion talk about, oh yeah, that day is going to come, yeah, it's going to come, but it's not going to apply. It's going to apply to, and this is why Yeshua, who you call Jesus Christ, says in the book of Revelation, some of you are going to be thrown in prison, even put to death. Yeshua's still talking to the same group of people. Because again, like I say, people in religion, or they would celebrate all these pagan rituals. So why would you think it apply to you when you're celebrating pagan rituals? You don't want to keep, the Sabbaths, the high holy days. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to follow the dietary law. So how do you really think it apply to you? It's talking about the people, again, who are the people, number one, and who have been Hellenized, which again is the same people right now who were stripped of their land, language, and culture. So anyway, family, I just want to share this right fast again, just to add and put things in context, so those who may not have heard this information can actually really, make more sense of this. With that being said, as usual, peace, love, shalom.